Good morning. This is your message for the day, today being June 17, 2013. And the reading of the day comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 1 through 10. And it starts, "Brothers and sisters, as your fellow workers, we appeal to you not to receive the grace of God in vain. For he says, in an acceptable time I heard you, and on the day of salvation I helped you. Behold, now is a very acceptable time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. We cause no one to stumble in anything in order that no fault be found with our ministry. On the contrary, in everything we commend ourselves as ministers of God, through much endurance, in affliction, hardship, constraints, beatings, imprisonments, riots, labors, vigils, fasts, by purity, knowledge, patience, and kindness, in the Holy Spirit, in unfringed love, in truthful speech, in the power of God, with weapons of righteousness at the right and at the left, through glory and dishonor, insult and praise. We are treated as deceivers and yet are truthful, as unrecognized and yet acknowledged, as dying and behold we live, as chastised and yet not put to death, as sorrowful yet always rejoicing, as poor yet enriching many, as having nothing yet possessing all." And with that last sentence, that's where I want to start. Having nothing yet possessing all. Because of all the things that we have that are meaningful, the only ones that are going to last are the ones that are godly, the ones of God. Because that's what goes into eternity, not the house or the car. In an acceptable time I heard you, and on the day of glory, on the day of salvation I helped you. Today is the day of salvation, if that's what you wish. If you are not saved, today could be your day of salvation, most definitely. And it is a very acceptable time. We cause no one to stumble in anything. And what he's talking about here, this is Paul's letter to the church in Corinth. And what Paul is talking about here is not causing our brothers or sisters to stumble because of the law, that it is the Spirit, not the law, that saves. And he goes on to say, as ministers of God, through much endurance, affliction, hardship, and goes on to list all the wonderful things that can sometimes happen to us as Christians, as ministers. And if you are a Christian, you are a minister. The beatings, the vigils, he goes on to say, the Holy Spirit, and unframed in truthful speech. In the Holy Spirit all things are possible, but without the Holy Spirit, none of this is possible. And then the one that I like, as dying and behold we live, as chastised yet not put to death, but Paul was in fact later put to death, as was Peter, as were many of the original disciples and apostles. Anyway, there's a huge list of things that we must endure, but in return we get eternity with Christ. This has been your message for the day, and go out and have a blessed day. Come see me tomorrow.